Hello, everyone, and welcome to a quick episode of Trek Canon. But today we're going to discuss an interesting question that was posed to me, which any Trekkie or Canonite would know the quick, simple, and easy answer to this. But on this channel, we like to give information, discuss things in their entirety, wide details, and all that kind of stuff. And the question simply was, what would happen if the crystalline entity encountered the Borg? Now, I took a few notes, but y'all know how bootleg I am on this channel, so, just bear with me. Now, let's talk a little bit about the crystalline entity. See, the crystalline entity is classified as a cosmozoan, all right? Now, what are some other species in Star Trek that's classified also as cosmozoans? That'll be things like Tin Man, the telepathic picture plant from Voyager. That'll be the two entities from Encounter at Farpoint that was at the end. Things like this are classified as cosmozoans, and the crystalline entity falls into that category. Another thing that the crystalline entity has in common with a lot of people seem to think that this is only rare species in canon that's this way is it's a silicon based life form. There's other life forms in Star Trek canon that are silicon based. You got the Alpha 23C inhabitants, you got the Horta, you got the Telosians, you got the Escalibans. Oh man, I missed the Escalibans. And you even got the microbrains. So there's a lot of silicon based life forms in Star Trek canon, just to name those for a few. Anyway, another thing about the crystalline entity is that it also has another name given to it by a species that basically hunts it, and it is called branchers, right? And another the crystalline entity has been shown in Star Trek Online to be able to break apart those pieces, also attack you, and if you destroy those pieces, they go back and link back up with the actual crystalline entity. So that's some of that's just a little bit about what the creature is. Now, some of the abilities of the crystalline entity is that it is an electromagnetic converter, right? It basically converts all matter it encounters into energy, which it uses to feed. And it does this by using antiprotons. And what is antiprotons? Basically, that's a beam of antimatter, is anti-energy, all right? And basically it uses that, wipes out everything that it touches, and it absorbs that energy. Now, the thing about its intelligence, it hasn't been shown to be highly intelligent. Basically, it seems to work on instinct, and it has a rudimentary form of communication, or if it has intelligence, a very basic form of intelligence. Okay, it has weaknesses to resonance, and of course, if you have kelbinite, a fistrium mixture, you can shield yourself from it. All right. Now, as far as this entity's society goes, okay, it's a lot of them. They even talked about that in the episode Lower Decks Excretus or something like that. But that's basically what the crystalline entity is. Now, you could communicate with it through the use of graviton pulses. I believe it was 10 per second or something like that. And it is basically a crystal. Okay. So here's the thing. Everybody knows about the Borg, but let's talk a little bit quickly about what the Borg bring to this particular encounter. All right, let's talk about the Borg shielding, because that's going to be very important. See, the thing is that the Borg shield matrix is two shields. You have the primary, you have the static shielding. The primary shielding is rarely ever in use, and basically they let everything hit them that's not kinetic weapons, and it passes through the static shield. And long story short, once the static shield figures out the frequency and everything, type of weapon, all that kind of stuff, then basically the shield matrix kicks in, the primary shielding, and now it's immune to all of those frequencies, types of weapons, all that kind of stuff. Let me see. Just so you guys know, because Starfleet shields have been shown to be able to resist the anti-proton feeding of the crystalline entity, but you got to understand that Borg shielding works very differently than Starfleet shielding. Okay, like I said, primary shield, the Borg shield matrix. Now, the Borg weaponry. Now, they have, of course, nanoprobes. Did you guys know that they got nanoprobes from species 149? It wasn't something that was indigenous to the Borg. Speaking of, and I'm going to probably have to talk about this in Inconsistent Trait, do you guys remember the first time that the Borg was encountered? And when they assimilated somebody, they didn't use tubules. As a matter of fact, when they came over to the ship, they was basically pushing buttons with their little arm and everything. When they took Picard, they was hooking him up with prosthetics and all that kind of stuff. stuff. They didn't really start using tubules until the movie, right? This is kind of interesting. I think it was that movie, or was it Basketball? No, I think it was a movie. But anyway, they have the nanoprobes. Now, anyway, these nanoprobes can basically pierce all known materials, go through all different types of shielding, known shielding, all that stuff. They will adapt. The only thing that has been shown to resist Borg nanites. See, a lot of people think it's only species 8472, but the Kazon have been shown to is it the Kazon? No, not the Kazon, it's the Hirogen. The Hirogen have been shown to resist Borg nanite assimilation, and to a very limited degree, or a lot better than humans and everybody else that's been shown. Dr. Flock's species has been shown to have a limited resistance to assimilations, denobulins, I should say. Now, the Borg also has a tractor beam and a cutting beam. See, look, let's talk about this, because a lot of people don't know how awesome this cutting and tractor beam is. Because the cutting beam, basically what it does is it can be specific to cut up a ship and use the tractor beam intermix with it to bring out pieces of sections to cut up ship, bring those pieces in for assimilation, all that kind of stuff. Or it can drain the shields, and once the shields are gone and they don't need nothing else to that ship, the cutting beam can be dispersed over a wide range, basically destroying the ship. All right, so that's a pretty cool thing. You got this Polaron beam. And what's so awesome about the Polaron beam is, don't y'all guys know that, remember when Seven and Scorpion was talked about how many torpedoes the Voyager has, and it was like, how you know that? Because this Polaron beam, basically what it does is when they fire this or use it to scan a vessel or anything else, basically it forces all the material in that object to resonate at a certain polarity, which the sensors on the Borg ship is able to read. So basically it makes everything vibrate at a certain polarity, and that's how the Borg know what's going on with everything, your material, how to get through it, what it's made of, how to adapt to it, all that kind of stuff. They also have gravimetric torpedoes. They have magnetic guided charges. They have multi-kinetic neutronic mines. All right. Look, the thing is that, by the way, did you guys know, I was speaking of species 149, did you guys know that the Ferengi is species 180, that humans is species 5618, and that the Vulcans is species 3259? So I have to ask myself, how in the world did the species of the Ferengi end up being so low at 180? Like, that's very, because they was in I'm gonna have to talk about that one day. But anyway, so what would happen if these two encountered each other? See, the thing is this: the antipolaron weapon, well, the antipolaron feeding that the crystalline entity uses would basically go through, like if they encounter a Borg cube, it's going to destroy that Borg cube. And when I say destroy the Borg cube, basically turn it into food. The only thing that to be left is the byproduct or whatever the crystalline entity uses. That being said, could the Borg adapt to that anti-proton beam? Eventually, yes, because the Borg are interconnected, they would eventually adapt to the anti-proton beam. Would the Borg be interested in the crystalline entity? Most likely not, because the thing is that the Borg have no use for silicon-based life forms. I think there is a silicon-based, what is it, 918 or something, species 918, but that's probably not canon. Anyway, there's speaking of side note, I always wanted this crystal dog, right? It was from this planet. It was from this planet. Yeah, Alpha 23C. Yeah. Anyway, they have this dog. It's from the comics, but it's this dog. Everything on there is silicon based. So they have crystal dragons, crystal dogs, crystal people. I believe the name of the comic book was the Psychonauts. Yeah, the Psychonauts. Speaking of, I was talking about some people who hunted the crystalline entity. It was from this novel, man, and it's not canon. I'm sorry for the side note, but I thought it was just some really cool information to share. So basically, in this novel, was these people called the Pac Whale, I believe it was, right? And they have a really cool backstory. Basically, they live with these sky jellies or something like that, and they was really good friends with them. Ended up doing something that caused a lot of the sky jellies or something like that to end up dying. It was huge space dwelling things. But anyway, they ended up using their carcasses or bodies, hulls, as their ships. Anyway, these were called sky mounts, right? And they used these sky mounts to hunt the crystalline entities on their home, I guess their home system, because since they absorb energy, they hang out around this particular star where they absorb this particular energy for their food. So it is a side thing, and if you ever get a chance to read it, it's really cool. And another thing I need to mention is in this encounter is very important, one very, 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 very super detail, and that is this. Before the simulation of, before Locutus and after Locutus, because after Locutus, the Borg will have everything they need to defeat the crystalline entity, because this would be knowledge that Picard had. So let's say this encounter happened before then. Anyway, so would they find the crystalline entity interested? No, because they are familiar with silicon-based life. Do they find that the crystalline entity would have culture or technology that it would like to add to his own? No. So that would mean that the only scenario where the Borg would find any reason to go over there and deal with this thing is if the crystalline entity rolled up on the Borg world or something like that and was like, hey, Borg world, you look tasty. Right now, everything on that Borg world would be gone. The first time the crystalline entity rolled up on that Borg world, everything would be decimated because the Borg wouldn't have time to adapt to how fast the crystalline entity eats a world. Now, the thing is that the crystalline entity is about 2 to 3 times the size of the Enterprise. And so it makes it roughly about the same size of a cube as far as area, volume of space go. And, or just a little bit smaller. All right. So running across a cube, like I said, that'll be super easy, small work, no issues. All right. Several of them before they have time to adapt to the antiproton, but they will adapt to the antiproton. Now, they wouldn't even need to adapt to the antiproton energy of the crystalline entity, because since the Borg are familiar with, see, here's the thing. A lot of people seem to think that the Borg need to assimilate something to understand how it works and all that stuff. That's only true for things that the collective has never ran into, which is usually the things that they're trying to assimilate. Okay, but please understand that a lot of reasons why they don't assimilate things or something like that is because they have a little over 10,000 species of knowledge. So each one of those species knowledge belongs to the Borg. So all of them know how resonance work, all that kind of stuff. They know that this is a crystalline structure and how to defeat a crystalline structure. And even before they even had to do all of that, would Borg weapons work on the crystalline entity? Now, here's the thing. The crystalline entity absorbs energy. It eats energy for breakfast. It loves energy. That's its thing, right? So no, the Borg weapons, most of the Borg weapons wouldn't work on a crystalline entity, but the Borg also use gravimetric weaponry as well, gravimetric mines, stuff like that, which will affect the crystalline entity. Okay, and the Borg, once they know that gravitons will affect the crystalline entity, and because they are also scaling gravitons coming off of them from how the crystalline entity communicates, right? They would know, oh, okay, let's see about doing this. All right. Can the Borg assimilate the crystalline entity if it chose to? Yes, it can. The nanoprobes will definitely assimilate inorganic material. Think about whenever how the Borg is always touching technology and assimilating that stuff. That's not people, that's stuff. And yeah, the crystalline entity is silicon based, and the Borg can assimilate that. Speaking of, species 5973. They're gaseous. They was talked about in what was that, the haunting of Deck 12 in Voyager. Yeah, the Borg assimilated a gaseous. You want to know something else that blows your mind? Omnicordial life forms. All right, they transmaterial. They talked about that in Voyager episode The Gift. The Borg are able to assimilate transdimensional beings. All right, so if they can do that, they definitely will make short work of the crystalline entity. So in short, to make this video, this 15-minute video, but I hope that you guys got a lot of information about both the crystalline entity and the Borg, not just a simple answer, man, the Borg will win. But thank you guys for watching. Please leave your comments below. Did you guys think who would win, and how easily they would win. But like again, I like the information a little bit about what happened with them and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, leave your comments below. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as always, peace, recycle, and say the whales. You guys be cool.